Prospective buyer, what do you wish you knew then, that you know now? Title: basically, I'm taking a hard look at purchasing a Model 3 soon. What do you wish you knew before you bought yours? Any model that you found out later. Also, with so many people saying good things, what's the one or more thing that really grinds your gears about the car? Looking forward to hearing your thoughts. That the cost for the long-range battery is probably worth it. Probably the only thing I'd change on my Model 3. I learned I could still love my car after 18 months of ownership. My husband jokes my Model 3 is my favorite child. The delivery process is probably the weakest part of the entire buying process. Poor communication, hiccups, and other annoyances are pretty common. Just be aware of that and expect it. I absolutely adore my car. I have zero real complaints and nothing that grinds my gears, but you should know that less than 15F, minus 26C, the range drops off substantially. You should know that no one ever really drives from 100% full to 0% empty, because it takes a really long time for the car to charge to 100%, and driving below 10% starts to get scary, and driving below 5% the car actually starts shutting down stuff in a way that is almost funnily reminiscent of some sci-fi movie. So really you are likely going to drive the car from 80% down to 20%. So the real range of the car is about 40% less than you think it is. And then you can go factor in cold, which it sounds like is not an issue for you based on comment replies. And you can see why the LR starts to look much more attractive. You should know that Tesla makes a great car that is fun to drive, but the sales staff are hard to reach and you can't always trust what they say, and taking delivery of the car is occasionally frustrating as they change the day that you are supposed to get the car randomly at the last minute. You should know that customer service can be annoying and sometimes harder to reach than one might hope. Fortunately, the car doesn't need a lot of maintenance. At 2 years of ownership and 25k miles on my Model 3, I've never actually been to a service center. All that said, I'd add that almost no morning goes by where I don't get into my car and think, wow, I love this thing, and I marvel that I actually own this thing. It is the single best purchase that I've made in my life, and it brings me enjoyment from driving it. That torque never gets old, charging it from solar, enjoying the technology, and more than anything else that I'm investing in a technology and a company that I really think is driving the world to the change that I am absolutely convinced is necessary. I think Tesla as a company gets it, and I'm glad to be part of this change. I absolutely adore my car and have zero regrets. Get the long-range model. The extra mileage is worth the extra cost. Consider the cost of charging at home as well. Cost me about $0 to get my house capable of charging the vehicle. If you aren't near superchargers, you need at-home charging to own a Tesla. FSD is not worth $0 in its current state. Navigate on Autopilot is nice but nothing life-changing. Summon is slow and you can walk to your faster than that. I haven't had a chance to use it in a deluge though. Auto park rarely works, detects spots fast enough, and I can park faster. The one benefit is you get certain updates and visuals before others, but eventually everyone gets the same software, and I guess down the line you'd get the upgrade to HW4 assuming you still have the car by then. How quickly your tires will need to be changed. There's no rear cross-traffic alert. Real world mileage equals advertised mileage, considering the car tells you to not charge to 100% every day, and, as others mentioned, other things in the car will use up energy. Your actual range will greatly vary. In the end, I've changed the energy display to percentage and stopped worrying about miles left. Only end up charging when I need, and that works for me, since I don't have charging at home. The real-world driving is nowhere close to the range you will actually get. Real-world driving, though, the PNW in my LRAWD is closer to 220 miles, not 300 plus, and that's driving like a grandpa. Hills, cooler weather, highway speeds lower your range dramatically. Way more if you speed, or like to step on it. Service is pretty terrible. Very poor communication when purchasing. Cars often get delivered with known defects and then schedule an appointment weeks out after delivery to fix. Service departments are currently over max capacity by a large margin and only getting worse with Model 3 sales ramp up and Model Y coming out. That being said, I love my car and happy I bought it. I'm still not all in on the buying process. For most people, buying a car is a huge purchase deserving evaluation before deciding on the spot to purchase. Pictures and trust isn't a good, complete process. In my case, there wasn't a rear shelf in my Model S, and I told advisor to document it was missing. He said he'd document missing part. I was on my own otherwise. When I went to take possession, signed the papers, wife asked about shelf and told her to watch this. I told Tesla advisor we're ready to take possession when Tesla gives rear shelf, otherwise we walk. The kid about grabbed himself. He tried valiantly to tell me the model didn't come with rear shelf and I pulled out Tesla document stating it did. Long story short, we bought a fantastic car with a new rear shelf. Do your homework, don't be intimidated by the process and enjoy. Overall, my 2017 Model 3 has been good. 40k miles later. I don't know if you are considering the FSD package, but my biggest regret is buying the FSD package based on future promises in late 2017. Tesla still hasn't delivered any features to my car for that $63,149 2 years later. Only buy packages with features you want today, not based on any future feature promise. You will be much happier overall. Range decreases if you drive a ton. I cycle the battery 50% every day and charge to 90% and have lost 15% of my range after 1.5y, 270 on long range M3. I might be charged to a lower amount instead of 90% every day. Not sure if it would have made a difference though. Set up dash cam day 1. This bit a friend of mine. I really took for granted how I could always get in my ICE car and have it work, especially as a late MCU1 owner. This is just not true for my wife anymore. New software updates are often followed by get in car does not work in some meaningful way. Still a great car, but that's not a thing you expect and is a big negative. If you are old enough, remember how you would update Windows with the understanding that maybe your PC would stop working so well, or you would suddenly have issues? It's exactly like that, only now for your car. Most of the current Tesla ownership base does not yet experience Tesla's understandable lower priority for down-level compute platforms, but their time is coming. Tesla's customer service is terrible. Like really bad. I'd heard some pretty impressive stories about delivery and service experiences that people had with the Model S, combined with all the various promises that the company and Elon have made over time. P100D loaners for service appointments, mobile rangers that deliver the house to your car and pick it up and drop off a loaner when you need service, etc. So I had high hopes and expectations going in. The reality is much different. Their customer service is barely functional. They don't answer phone calls. They don't return emails. The service centers are booked out for weeks and never have loaners. They rarely fix problems, preferring to argue with you about whether the problem exists. Instead, they can't track down error messages in the vehicle logs. So it's up to you to take pictures of the message with a date timestamp, and even then, that's often not good enough to convince them that the error occurred. They'll even insinuate that you're making things up. Mobile service is much better, but only addresses a limited number of problems, and you can't schedule with them directly. You have to make a service center appointment first, and then hope to get an email handing your case off to the mobile team. Delivery was a nightmare. No communication, paperwork coming through literally at the last minute, fine if you're paying in cash or taking their loan, not fine if you're getting an outside loan. Delivery specialists don't return phone calls or emails to answer questions or coordinate paperwork and delivery appointments. Their handling of Model 3 reservations was an unmitigated disaster. The energy side is not better. I've tried multiple times to get an estimate for panels and power walls, and to get some basic questions answered about how they work with our local electric co-op that has strange rules about solar installations and net metering. An impossible request. Apparently, the energy team doesn't respond to emails either, or, at most, does so without reading your inquiry first. The car is phenomenal, and fortunately, for the most part, it just works. So, no regrets overall on buying it. It's a lot of fun. But I definitely was and continue to be surprised by just how terrible their customer service is, and how they don't seem to be improving. I won't buy another vehicle or energy product from them, nor recommending them to friends and family, until I see clear signs that they're getting this stuff under control. I wish I knew that supercharging won't work if the car fails to lock onto the supercharger for some reason. Level 1 and 2 charging still works if the lock fails to engage, though at reduced charging rates. Early Model 3s had charging ports that tended to freeze in the winter time, which caused the lock to not engage until it was thawed. Tesla fixed the port on mine as part of a service recall. Mine hasn't frozen since then. Get the Stealth Model 3. Best bang for the buck. I have RWD and decided to buy FSD over AWD with EAP. I definitely regret that. Fortunately, this is now a decision that you don't need to consider. That there is inventory of Model 3s that you could have got a discount on. That there was a stealth performance that I would have easily paid for. Biggest lesson for me was that range isn't just about how far you can go on a charge. It also determines how long it takes to charge to a certain number of miles at a supercharger, because the charging speed sharply drops off after 60–70%. So for road trips the rule of thumb is more that it takes about 45 minutes to get to 70%, but then every 10% on top of that takes 15–20 minutes. Not considering this led me to buy a 75 kWh Model S when I really wanted a 100 kWh one. Nothing useful to you. I wish I waited till now. Just like you are, you have free AP now and HW 3.0. Lot cheaper than what I paid for LR Plus Premium Plus FSD. I would have gladly settled for the current SR Plus. If I were you, I would just buy it now, and don't get FSD. I wish I knew that they rattled so much. Over 10 service visits for the 2018 LR RWD, that's 28 days out of service for battle-related issues. Granted, the newer 3s are better, but build quality is way worse on the 3 compared to my wife's S. I also wish I knew the ride could be made better on the 3 with lowering springs. My butt would have thanked me 40k miles ago. That service in general is center dependent, and miscommunications can and will happen between what they say they will fix and what actually gets fixed. Although I will say that knowing which SCs are good and knowledgeable techs will give you enough DIY and info to fix a lot of problems yourself. Also in line with the cold weather comments, I wish I knew to never put myself in a situation where I'm forced to charge at multiple stops on a timetable because of worsening conditions. That's an experience I wouldn't have had to go through if I had an ICE car. I wish I knew tires made a big difference, and that having a lead foot would destroy my first set in 12k miles. FSD is fool's gold. that I'd nearly forget how to use a gas pump. Check to see if your state has an electric car tax. I was surprised to learn that Ohio enacted a 0-year tax on all fully electric cars. The car is fantastic. Seriously, the most amazing vehicle you will buy up to that point. Your own personal spaceship from the future that will ruin ICE cars forever. You will never regret the purchase. The buying process, especially anything having to do with delivery advisors in Las Vegas, is a hellacious nightmare that will have you metaphorically pulling out your hair with unanswered emails, phone calls that go to voicemail, and a website that asks you for things that contradict the emails and vice versa. Do yourself a favor and go on a test drive at SC. I drove 250 miles one way to do mine and order it there on the web and have that sales advisor be your contact for the whole process. I was able to get all my stuff done via text phone with my SE, completely ignoring Las Vegas and the website. Take delivery at the SC with your sales advisor, tendering a cashier's check for your car and any trade-in. Tesla makes fantastic cars. The buying process is awful unless you work with a human you can shake hands with. My one flaw about the Model 3 itself: if you park and don't want to leave right away, your car's lights will stay on for 10 minutes. The only way to turn them off is to turn them off in the settings, but you have to remember to toggle it back to automatic or to open and close the charging port. An annoyance, but not a deal breaker. Pay for battery, but not for future features like FSD. Buy the best model you can afford. I tried being frugal but quickly regretted not getting more. Love my SR Plus, but all things considered wish I got LR-AWD. Service is quite expensive once warranty runs out. Ouch. Even with fewer moving parts, etc. Up until then most people are extremely happy with the car. If there is still such thing as ESA, Extended Service Agreement, remember it has 0 copay for each visit, too. I'm in Gilbert. We have the SR Plus and Performance Stealth. If you and your GF are in the East Valley, my wife and I would be happy to show you the differences. I hate how easy it is to go fast. Get the biggest battery range. If you can't afford the bigger battery, wait until you can. Another thing works in favor of M3LR is the charging speed. It can charge at 250 kWh versus 150 kWh senior, IIRC, so fewer stops and smaller stops. In reality, charging speed depends on A. whether SC is V3 or not, B. car is preconditioned or not, C. and still, for some unknown reasons BMS could limit the charging to 60 kWh. I think that I should have gotten a PPF and the white interior. PPF would have helped with random rock chips and washing the car by hand. White interior I hear is softer and just looks nice now that I've gotten used to the black interior. Also should have waited a month so that I could have taken advantage of the Model 3 price drop in free white paint. Would also love to have known about the Stealth Performance model and bought that instead. This is something I knew going in, and have since experienced it, but if you ever get in an accident just be prepared to be without your car for a month or two, or possibly more depending on parts availability and how backed up the certified body shops are in your area. And there are other examples of growing pains like that, e.g. customer support or delivery, but they're such good cars otherwise that it's easy to forgive those faults. That at the moment, FSD for 7K is a waste of money mostly. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to hear more of the best posts.